Which kind of leads me to uh, one of the subjects of tonight's conversation, which is Chrissie. And I noticed that, on her last video, as ridiculous as it was, she tried to start using the audio visualizer. And those of you who may not be aware of what that is, that's you see where I'm talking and you see how the meter at the bottom left here is going in accordance to what I'm saying. So I don't know if she's ever did that in the past, but I just feel it's like ironic that all of a sudden she has one of those in her video after obviously seeing mine. And but I will give her a little tip. You have to make sure that it's synchronized because hers was just moving, and I know other people do that too, where it's not synchronized. So just like when I stop talking like this, you'll see it go down, right? And when I talk, it goes up. In her case, it just kept moving, so she obviously didn't learn how to synchronize it. But that's neither here nor there. Just thought I'd point out that little observation. Now, with regard to the topic, she dropped this video, and it was really hilarious because she's making some type of response to me, I guess, because it's weird that all of a sudden she's talking about black men's desirability when, based on her own talking points, she was kind of moving away from that conversation. And I think it's in direct response to some of the data that I put out with regard to black women's desirability across racial groups. And let it be known that to me, this is all like water under the bridge. And I don't bring this stuff out to rehash, the former gender war debates. And like I said before, that's done with. We're just pushing back against propaganda. But the thing that she did, she had this video, and again, I wouldn't have even known about it, but because once you are responding to somebody or you see one of their videos, the algorithm keeps kicking you more of their videos. Because I did say she put that little BS strike on our channel, and I was looking into just fighting it because I know I would win it hands down with the counsel that I've taken. But this last video that she put out was so pathetic, and some of her talking points were so ridiculous. I'm like, do I even really want to waste my time and resources just going ahead to push back? Because we already pretty much got the video back posted. And if I put the other video back up, it's just going to be able to, double the video because again, it's already posted. So I'm still reserving the right to maybe go ahead and push forward so that we can just get that other video reinstated. But like I said, we already have the other video still up. So, but when it comes to this pathetic video that she made, it was really quite sad. And at this point, not only are we pushing back against the propaganda, but we just got to set the record straight. Because in her video, essentially, it was a cry fest about her trying to diminish black men's desirability. And she had the unmitigated gall to get a bunch of bottom shelf Beckys who were clearly bust downs and ran throughs by, Pookie and Ray Rays or whatever, claiming their dissatisfaction with black men, while at the same time claiming that that was all that they dated in the past. So it was really a weird video, and it was so interesting that she would post such a video, because even in that very same video, some of these bottom shelf Beckys were clearly racist because they were actually saying racial slurs, and they were making references to tropes and stereotypes, and they were even throwing black women under the bus. But she was so desperate to try to debunk what I was saying in terms of racial desirability, specifically as it pertains to black women, that she just cobbled together a few videos that she got from TikTok or wherever about these non-black women showing their distaste for black men. But anyway, I'm going to address a few of these things because it's, at this point, is really sad. And Chrissy, you have to understand something, right? I'm one of the guys who believe that black women should have their own standard. I'm one of the guys who actually highlights unambiguous black beauty over here. So you're so divorced from reality that you don't even realize that the same type of guy like me are the guys that you guys should be applauding, because we're the ones that have set the groundwork and laid the stage for you to even have something to build upon, but you guys are so game goofy that you don't even understand how you can capitalize off the fertile soil that we left for you. And I'm going to show you that. And it's really weird because every single thing about black women that is considered attractive is the direct result of black men establishing it. Case in point, there was a point in time that big butts on a woman was something to ridicule. When I was growing up, it wasn't no Asian dude, white dude, not even really Latinos who were talking about they wanted a woman with a big butt. That was black men that popularized that. In fact, if you look in history, you ever hear of someone called Sarah Bartman? And look what they did to her. They were seeing the black woman's form as something like a circus freak, something to put in a human zoo. Oh yeah, I ain't making it up. Go look it up. That's how your white men view the black woman's body until the black man, using our social influence and all these other groups of men wanting to emulate us, and they said, hey, if black men think it's cool for women to have a big butt, hell, that's what we like too. And that's the reason why. Same thing with big lips. That was something to ridicule until black men said it was something that we liked. But it's so ironic that she's trying to take the things that the black man has established that makes black women attractive and try to sell that to these other groups of men, while at the same time not acknowledging where it even came from in the first place. And it's kind of like this right here, because you notice when you have these women who are claiming to be, quote, divestors, right? I want you to look at something, and I don't think you've ever heard anybody break it down like this, but I'm going to tell it to you like this. If you take a company, right? Let's say it's a publicly traded company, and it looks for what? Investors, stockholders, right? So the black woman in this equation is the company. And this is how twisted feminism and all these other ridiculous ideologies these women have digested. It has them not knowing their butt from a hole in the ground in terms of how this is supposed to work. Listen, you are like the company in the equation. The man is the investor. So for a group of women to be talking about their divesting, and again, it's not like we give a damn. We're saying get it how you live. You know, if you can find a group of men that are going to, you know, celebrate you and do all of this and do the things for you that you feel like black men have not done, even though we're the only ones who've done it, be our guest, right? But here's the problem. They'll sit up here and get it twisted into thinking that they themselves are in a position to, quote, divest when the man is the one that's making the investment. That's the equivalent of a company that is dependent upon investors saying that it's going to divest from its investors. I'm going to say that again. Imagine a company that has its value, its stock price is contingent upon its investors. And, you know, I'm a money guy, so I try to speak in terms of practicality, and hopefully, you know, I know a lot of my night riders, you guys think of things like this too, but I'm really trying to make this very simple. If you have a company that is dependent upon investors for its share price, for its value, for its income, what does that company or its board of directors look like saying that it's going to divest from its investors? It is ridiculous, but that's precisely what these women are saying when they talk about their divesting, or they're gonna not deal with black men. And again, personally, I don't care whether or not you do it. I'm just pointing this out to show you how ridiculous it is. And it's almost as if, using my example with the company again, just say you have a company that has a specific product that a specific demographic has made popular, and that would be black men. And instead of this company acknowledging its core demographic, its core audience, or its core consumer, it's alienating that core consumer because they do have constructive criticisms about the product. They're saying, hey, you know, we really like the product. However, you can improve it here. You know, the customer service needs to be improved a little bit. And they're just, you know, going online or whatever, and they're expressing their grievances with regard to the product. They're not saying that they don't like the product or that they are never going to deal with it or anything like that. And we're talking about, obviously, from the standpoint of black men who are still trying to, date black women, particularly in the West, right? So they just, saying what they think could be improved about it. But instead of them taking heed to what these their core base is saying, they say, okay, well, since you got you hate our product and you don't want to deal with us, well, we're gonna sell it to another demographic, right? That's their approach. And meanwhile, the other demographic have already stated that they don't even like the product or not as much as they think they do, and so they thinking that they can basically disenfranchise their core market while at the same time trying to expand into another market that doesn't even like their product that much. It's totally ridiculous. But anyway, I'm going to get into something here, and we are going to talk about the Anton situation as well. So this is kind of like a double feature. But I did want to touch on this situation with Chrissie because, like I said, it's really sad. And again, I was going to make sure that we did something about that little BS strike she put on our channel, but she's still, at this point, it's like a pity situation, and I'm still going to reserve the right to look into doing that, and I have everything in place to do it. But even if I win the case, which I know I will, all we're going to do is get the video back posted, and we already pretty much won that battle because the video is posted right now. We just kind of, gave her a more fitting representation since she's so triggered by her own image. She put us in a position where we had to get a substitute here. And, I think it's a pretty good likeness. And, it was up to her. She could have just not had such a hissy fit about the whole thing or a Chrissie fit, as it were. But anyway, let's get into some work because I'm going to just dismiss this notion about whether or not black men are losing their luster, as it were, because her whole video, the tone of it was, see, they're not as popular as they used to be. I'm like, well, first of all, men of substance and men of value, men on their purpose, we don't give a good goddamn what woman likes or don't like us. We're beyond that. I mean, what is this, high school? Unlike you guys, we don't spend every waking moment caring about how we are perceived in terms of sexual marketability. A lot of us have had our fair share of women's attraction. Okay, we're good. I know I am. Okay, if I don't have another woman in life express that she likes me or comes on to me, I'm good either way because my confidence is where it needs to be when it comes to that. So this whole trope, getting 4 or 5 bottom chef Beckys that I wouldn't even touch with a 10-foot pole to say that they don't like black men is like, I mean, I could not care any less. But just to push back at this trope, I'm going to show a few quick little shorts here, and it's just going to demonstrate that men, specifically black men that have their stuff together, don't have a shortage of women to choose from, whether it be in the States or overseas. And I'm going to kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone because I heard this other BS trope that some women like to say, it's kind of cope when they say this, but they try to say, well, they got to go overseas to these third world countries because that's the only women that like them. Oh, okay. All right. So let me just dispel that myth real quick. And I'm going to show you some examples of black men in these different countries, which I can attest to as well, as someone who in the past has been well traveled. But I'm going to give you guys some examples of what happens when just, regular black men, they're out traveling, having a good time, the type of responses they get, contrary to what Chrissie and the rest of these bitter broads like to try to promote. But let's get it. Let's get our display up on the screen here. All right, check it out. Now, this is a black man. I believe he's from Africa, but he's in China. And China, by the way, is not a third world country. In some metrics, it actually has a GDP higher than America. Okay, so for all these women, these bitter women who say, well, they got to go to third world countries. Well, China's not a third world country. And this is this guy on a beach in China. Check it out.
Okay, we're getting